Shalom, shalom. First and foremost, giving all praises and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushua, Ba'ashem, Wachakodash, and giving double honors to our apostles and elders of Great Millstone and Shalom, and salutation to all you sincere Akim across the four winds, pushing this truth with sincerity of heart. I'm your fellow servant, Kasamagan from the DC camp, coming at you through the spirit and power of Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushua, Ba'ashem, Wachakodash, and for the elect. All right, and this lesson is gonna really be like a quick commentary on First Samuel's. I've been through the spirit. I've been kind of going back over the book of Samuel's, especially First Samuel's, and we go over all these different books right year in and year out. And I just want to kind of do a quick commentary on First Samuel's chapter 23 because it was really amazing some of the dynamic between King Saul and David, which was the anointed to be king. One king, one wicked king against an up and coming righteous king. And then it's always good to kind of go in there and see the dynamic and quick commentary. And then again, certain points that basically stood out as you read the story, and it really tells you, man, the elect are going to be all right, but it's not going to be an easy road. And we going to have to constantly pray, constantly pray, even when we're in doubt. All right, we have to go back and then pray to the Lord. So without further ado, let's go straight to it. This is 1 Samuel chapter 23. 1 Samuel chapter 23, actually, verse 1. It says, and mind you, at this particular stage, David is fleeing. He's fleeing from King Saul. So you would have to read the first, reread. I'm sure you've already read, reread 1 Samuel's from the first chapter to the 23rd chapter. So at this point, David is fleeing King Saul. Jonathan is kind of in between, helping David, and basically betraying his father because he knew his father was being wicked. So let's go right into it, man. Certain points really stood out, and I wanted to share that with with you, sincere elect. This is 1 Samuel chapter 23, verse 1. It says, then they told David, saying, or subtitle, David delivers Keilah. All right, and Keilah is a city. It says, then they told David, saying, behold, the Philistines fight against Keilah, and they robbed the threshing floor. Therefore David inquired of the Lord, meaning David went and prayed to the Lord. He didn't just go out here and just move without advice. The scripture say you gotta, with good advice, then make that war. Meaning you have to pray to the Lord, all right, and look and then discuss with your counsel. Therefore David inquired of the Lord, which that's something Saul as you read, right? 1 Samuel, Saul wasn't doing that, all right? One of the reasons Saul was rebellious. A lot of times you wonder why Saul fell off, because he would just make wild move, and then the Lord would be like, Samuel would be like, well, why did you do that? Well, because I didn't want the people to look at me this way and this and this and that. And I'm like, well, you didn't inquire from the Lord. You know what I'm saying? And so there's a lot of things that Saul did that would show his lack of faith, and he was just basically doing his own thing. Therefore David inquired of the Lord, Yahweh Shall saying, shall I go and smite these Philistines? And the Lord said unto David, go and smite the Philistines and save Keilah. And David's men said unto him, behold, we be afraid here in Judah. How much more than if we come to Keilah against the armies of the Philistines? So now you have David's people saying, hey, listen, man, Saul is chasing us, man, and we scared. Saul can move on us at any time. Now you want us to go and fight and save another city of Judah against these Philistines? Like, we're going to be spread through thin. Like, what's up with that? So now when they say that, what happens? It says, then David inquired of the Lord yet again. So now, because of that conversation with his people, doubt creeps in. Although he inquired to the Lord said, yeah, go. He talked to his people, doubt creeps in, which it does happen. All right? These are the things that David himself went through. So when the doubt crept in, what did he do? He went back. So when we have our own personal situations, we pray to the Lord, and then we go out and face the enemy, whatever the enemy is in your situation. Sometimes, it's not the time yet, and certain things will happen, and you would doubt. You'll be like, hold up, I prayed to the Lord, like, what? Then you got to go back and pray again, all right? You don't give up. You go back and pray again. That shows faith, strong faith. Then David inquired of the Lord yet again, and the Lord answered him and said, Arise, go down to Keilah, for I will deliver the Philistines into thine hand. So now when he went the second time, he got the conviction and a confirmation to go, to put a move. And once he heard that, he didn't go back to the council and tell him, well, nah, he was, he had the conviction, and he just did it. All right. Verse 5 is, so David and his men went to Keilah and fought with the Philistines and brought away their cattle and smote them with great slaughter. So David saved the inhabitants of Keilah. And it came to pass when Abiathar, the son of Ahimelech, fled to David to Keilah, that he came down with an ephod in his hand. By the way, Ahimelech, Abiathar was the son of Ahimelech, the priest, who basically who helped David. He didn't know there was big beef between David and Saul. He just helped David. And then he gave David the sword that David Goliath's sword and stuff like that. So he helped David as David was fleeing. Now David didn't, David didn't tell him. David just said, man, listen, I need some help. Ahimelech didn't know. He didn't know what the hell was going on. So, but it was all set up in the spirit. So when Saul came in, Saul was like, oh yeah, Ahimelech, oh, you helped David, you got to go. So Saul put him to death. His son Abiathar ran to David. David said, damn, I'm sorry. Your peoples got slain, because it wasn't just Ahimelech. It was a whole bunch of priests, man, that Saul basically Doeg the Edomite, the Edomite slayed, he slayed Ahimelech and a bunch of priests. I think it was like 80 souls that he killed. And so David told Ahimelech, rock with me. I'm sorry. You lost your people because of me, but this is what's going on. So they had a strong bond off of that situation. Verse 7, it says, and it was told Saul that David was come to Keilah, and Saul said, the Most High has delivered him into mine hand. Now this thing right here, that's what I was a hold up, man. This right here is proof. You see these other camps out there, the ISUPK and them, and I thought about it, like a lot of times we talk about COINTELPRO. Yeah, you got guys that are COINTELPRO. Like Genesis Israelites, I believe they're COINTELPRO. A couple of guys that then you have actual wicked Israelites that believe that the Most High is dealing with them. You know what I'm saying? Like a lot of guys in ISUPK, IUIC, like they really believe. Like, check this out. So it says, and it came, verse 6, and it came to pass when Abiathar, the son of Ahimelech, fled to David to Keilah, that he came down with an ephod in his hand. Now, verse 7, it says, it was told Saul that David was come to kill us. So now Saul's hears, oh, I've been chasing him, or now, oh, he in the city of Keilah. Okay, cool. And this is what Saul said. God has delivered the Most High. He believes the Most High, Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua, has delivered him into my hand. For he is shut in by entering into a town that has gates and bars. Mind you, Saul has been extremely wicked and devilish this whole time. At this point, he's gone. He's far gone. He's super wicked, to the point where even his own son is like low-key working against him and providing information to David. You know what I'm saying? And this dude, completely delusional, says, yeah, the Most High, which the Most High has told you through Samuels that he's not fucking with you. This man says, yo, the Most High surely has given me David. So this is a point. The point I'm trying to say is that, yeah, we pray, us hopefully, like we pray to the Lord, and we believe the Lord is dealing with us. You also have to believe you have Israelites on the left-hand side that also, although they do wicked deeds, to them, they don't see it like that. And because they're able to do it, they believe that the Most High is dealing with them. A lot of those guys are ISUPK. Like, all the niggerish shit that they do, they believe the Most High is dealing with them. Crazy as it sounds, bro. They believe the Most High is dealing with them. It's that same spirit of delusion. This is 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 11. And for this cause, the Most High, Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua, shall send them strong delusion, that they should believe a lie. All right? So the Lord would do that, man. The Lord is shown to be able to do that. So this is something that we must accept. All right? Dudes ain't always on their knees, always talking to Esau and giving intel. Some dudes are really on their knees praying to Yahweh Bashim Al and doing wicked shit. And as long as the wicked deeds continue, they're prospering their wicked deeds, they're like, yeah, the Lord surely is with me. So that's one of the things I was like, wow, like this is really, this is kind of what's going on in Israel, always been going on in Israel, the house of David and the house of Saul. And they both call upon the name of the Lord. Ay, man. 1 Samuel 23:8, right? And Saul called all the people together to war to go down to Keilah to besiege David and his men. And David knew that Saul secretly practiced mischief against him. And that's the difference. The difference is the souls of the house of Saul, although they call upon the name of Yahweh Bashim Yahshua, they got garments, they call themselves prophets and represent Israel. We know that secretly these guys practice mischief. We know that they do for filthy lucre's sake, although they put the name of the Lord on their garments and their shirts or whatever. We know that. All right. So although it seems like their practices are, they flourishing, we know that the Lord is allowing, is giving them strong delusion. All right. So it says, and David knew that Saul secretly practiced mischief against him. And he said to Abiathar the priest, bring hither the ephod. Then said David, O Lord, Yahweh Bashim Yahshua of Israel, thy servant has certainly heard that Saul seeketh to come to Keilah to destroy the city for my sake. So you see, both men are praying to the Lord. Both men are calling upon. I mean, of course, Saul wasn't calling upon the Lord the same way, but both men speak of the Lord being on their side. Like, it's kind of like when you watch sports, right? And you see two teams and they both praying, saying like, oh yeah, they all, before the game, they both pray. And you sitting there like, it's always funny because because we know they don't pray to Yahweh Bashim Yahshua, although we know the Lord controls. It's always funny because I sit there like, okay, so who is Jesus, your beloved Jesus? Who's he gonna choose? So whoever loses, since both of y'all are praying, whoever loses, is he gonna say, damn, I guess Jesus wasn't fucking with me? Just so it's always funny when I see that in sports when them two teams pray. You know what I'm saying? That God makes them win the game. So it's always, but it is a true dynamic. You know what I'm saying? That happens. You just hope you're on the right side of things, right? 1 Samuel 23:10, it says, then said David, O Lord, Yahweh Bashim Yahshua of Israel, thy servant has certainly heard that Saul seeketh to come to Keilah to destroy the city for my sake. So he's going to kill everybody because he wants me. Verse 11, will the men of Keilah deliver me up unto his hand? Will Saul come down as thy servant has heard? O Lord, power of Israel, I beseech thee, tell thy servant. And the Lord said, he will come down. So David again praying to the Lord, asking him. Saul is not doing it to the same manner. Saul's kind of going with the flow. And if something works out for him, he praises the Lord. He said, well, the Lord is making this happen. But promise you, Saul is not getting down on his knees with sincerity, asking the Most High. Nah, Saul is, at this point, is gone. And he's in that dark place. But when something good happens in his favor, he believes that the Most High is dealing with him. So this is the delusion that Saul was in the whole time. But David kept asking the Lord, right? He didn't just do things just because. He just kept going back, meaning he kept praying. He kept praying, all right? Because he knew his, like, one mistake, and he was done, all right? Talk about being on edge. It says, verse 12, then said David, will the men of Keilah deliver me and my men into the hand of Saul? And the Lord said, they will deliver thee up. Man, the Lord said, yeah, man, they're going to give you up. Now, at first I was like, hold up. Damn, man, he just helped you defeat the Philistines. But then the Spirit was like, well, the king at the time was not David. The king was Saul. And then they would have to give him to Saul because Saul is the king. Now, just because it's not a righteous thing, remember there's laws, there's orders, there's order. Like, so when I kind of thought about it, I was like, yeah, man, they if the king is asking, they don't really know the beef. And that's another thing. A lot of people got caught up in this beef and they didn't know what the hell was going on. You know what I'm saying? So that's why, that's a dangerous thing about, it's like a give and take. Like, sometimes being at the top, it comes with a lot of issues, but also Then when you're in the bottom, you don't deal with a lot of issues. The problem also with being in the bottom sometimes is the issues from the people at the top. You get caught up in there and you don't know what the hell is going on. So it's one of those things, man. But you always rather be in the know than to be ignorant, because then people just doing things and you just get caught up in there and you don't know what the hell is going on. So you always pray that the Lord keeps you in the loop. All right? Because if you're going to go down, at least you want to know why and who's, doing that to you, right? Not be like Ahimelech, where he was just like, what the hell going on? And then he just got taken out. 1 Samuel 23:12, it says, then said David, will the men of Keilah deliver me and my men into the hand of Saul? And the Lord said, they will deliver thee up. Then David and his men, which were about 600, arose and departed out of Keilah and went whatsoever they could go. And it was told Saul, now check this out. And it was told Saul that David was escaped from Keilah, and he forbade to go forth. So, and that's another thing about warfare. You had dudes that were spying, right? As you're gonna go and understand, like you had spies. You had spies from both camps, and I'm gonna show you. You had spies. David had spies in Saul's camp, and Saul was also trying to get spies in David's camp. But David had spies in Saul's camp. That's why David was always like 2 to 3 steps ahead of Saul. And one of the biggest spies was Jonathan. And Saul even said that in a couple of verses, like, man, he told Jonathan, you think I don't know you working against me? You working against your own father to help David. You don't know that David's gonna take the crown that's supposed to be yours when I die, and you out here working against me. So this is what was going on. This was the dynamic, Subtitle: Saul pursues David. Make sure I didn't skip that. No. I'll skip that. Let me go back to 13. Then David and his men, which were about 600, arose and departed out of Keilah and went whatsoever they could go. And it was told Saul that David was escaped from Keilah, and he forbade to go forth. And David abode in the wilderness and strongholds and remained in the mountain of the wilderness of Ziph. And Saul sought him every day, but the Most High delivered him not into his hand, right? So David was always a step ahead. He would constantly communicate with the Lord, and then he would get the answers that he was looking for, all right? Now, verse 15, and David saw that Saul was come out to seek his life. So Saul came out personally on the battlefield, and David was in the wilderness of Ziph in the wood. And Jonathan saw, now check this out. So Saul is right there with his army chasing after David. Jonathan is also part of his father's army, but the whole time Jonathan is linked, as you're going to show, he's in which the Lord had, the Lord was doing this. Every move that Saul would make, how Saul kept including Jonathan into his counsel. Again, there's a high likelihood that at that point Saul might have said, nah, my son is clearly in allegiance with David. He can't be a part of our war council. But Jonathan, somehow through the Spirit of the Lord, Jonathan was able to get the information and was able to either link up with David in the back or sent somebody. And David always, when David would pray, David would get the answer. David was always steps ahead of Saul because of that. You know what I'm saying? So I'm explaining a different thing. This is how it kind of went in more details to the Spirit, right? 1 Samuel 23:16, it says, and Jonathan, Saul's son, arose and went to David in the wood and strengthened his hand in the Most High. So they're in the woods, both army, and Jonathan sneaks out and goes and speak to the man who's his father trying to murder, not kill, murder. Verse 17, and he said unto him, fear not, for the hand of Saul my father shall not find thee, which that is treason. But sometimes when you do that, you got to choose righteousness. And even Saul, Jonathan knew that sometimes you got to do what you got to do for righteousness' sake, bro. And thou shalt, it says, I'm going to read it again. And he said unto him, fear not, for the hand of Saul my father shall not find thee, and thou shalt be king over Israel, and I shall be next unto thee, and that also Saul my father knoweth. Meaning you're going to be king, I'm going to be your right hand man. My father knows that. He clearly doesn't want that, but that's what is going to happen. And they too made a covenant before the Lord, so they both agreed that, all right, that's going to be it. You're going to be the king. I'm going to be your right-hand man. And David abode in the wood, and Jonathan went to his house. Now, Jonathan leaves David's camp, and then he goes back to his spot. So he was constantly feeding information. That's why Saul could never get to David, right? So the Lord always took care of David. It's just that Saul was always close enough, but not, you know what I'm saying, but not too close. Not enough to actually get David. Verse 19, it says, then came up to the Ziphites, to Saul, to Gibeah, right, if I'm saying it right, saying, doth not David hide himself with us in strongholds in the wood, in the hill of Hakilah, which is on the south of Jeshimon? Now, therefore, O king, come down according to all the desire of thy soul to come down, and our part shall be to deliver him into the king's hand. Now, you would look at that and be like, damn, man, what's wrong with these dudes? Why they all trying to get David? Well, some of them knew the beef and others didn't know. They just felt like David was a rebel, like bringing schism and chaos in Israel. And if the king said, yo, this dude, the king is pushing out that, yo, this dude is woo. They're like, yeah, man, we're going to get this motherfucker, man. He's bringing chaos in Israel. So David had to deal with not only the fact that the king would probably, Saul would set out a narrative and it would create more enemies. So he had to deal with a false narrative on him while he was running. So he couldn't even defend himself. So this is the type of pressure. And similar to us, as when Esau comes down on this, he's going to create a narrative. And we were not going to be able to, fight back on that scale. We're going to be called all types of shit. And we're just going to have to believe in the Lord and understand that it's not about the validation of the world. If the world condemns you, it doesn't matter as long as Yahweh Hashem is with you. But it's not going to be easy, man, because your life is going to be on the line when all hell breaks loose, when the persecution comes. 1 Samuel 23 and 20. Now, therefore, O king, come down according to all the desire of thy soul to come down, and our part shall be to deliver him to the king's hand. And Saul said, blessed be ye of the Lord. Now, check this out. So Saul said, mind you, this guy, this king has been wicked as hell. But yet, because if favorable news comes in, all of a sudden he's blessing the Lord, right? And Saul said, blessed be ye of the Lord, Yahweh Hashem, for ye have compassion on me. So both sides are blessing the Lord, believing that the Lord is dealing with both of them. When the Lord is really, he's moving both of them, but he's only dealing with one side. So it's very important to understand that, right? The other side, one side is truly with the Lord, the other side is in delusion. Go, I pray you go, I pray you, prepare yet and know and see his place where his haunt is, and who has seen him there. For it is told me that he dealeth very subtly. See therefore and take knowledge of all the lurking places where he hideth himself, and come ye again to me with the certainty, and I will go with you. And it shall come to pass, if he be in the land, that I will search him out throughout all the thousands of Judah. And they arose and went to Ziph before Saul, but David and his men were in the wilderness of Maon, in the plain of the south of Jeshimon. Saul also and his men went to seek him. And they told David, see now it says Saul also and his men went to seek him, right? In that spot, they said, and they told David, wherefore he came down into a rock. Who is they? Again, the spies. You know what I'm saying? This is warfare. I know this because I love watching movies about warfare and all that, how there's nothing new under the sun. You just got to kind of know when it's talking about what is going on. If you watch enough learn a lot about war and so on and so forth, you kind of understand the dynamic, right? It said that they told David. So who is they? So David had that link. He was always a step ahead. The Lord would be with David, and the Lord is going to be with us, man. We gonna always be a step or 3 steps in front of Esau when he's chasing and persecuting. We just gotta believe. It says, and they told David, wherefore he came down into a rock and abode in the wilderness of Maon, And when Saul heard that, he pursued after David in the wilderness of Maon. And Saul went on this side of the mountain, and David and his men on that side of the mountain. So they on the same mountain, one on one side, the other one on the other side. So David on the right side, Saul on the left side of the mountain, right? And David made haste to get away for fear of Saul, for Saul and his men come past David. So they were trying to encircle David at the mountain. All right, so David was making haste, like, yo, we got to get out of here. This is a death trap. It says, for Saul and his men come past David, and his men round about, right, and his men round about to take them. But there, now check this out. So now David is in a situation where they're both in the mountains, a death trap, and Saul has already made his military plans to encircle David and said, man, you in that mountain, both of us in that mountain, you ain't coming down that bitch. You know what I'm saying? If you come down, we're going to have our armies flank you. So at this point, this is where David basically, I'm pretty sure at this point, he's thinking, man, fuck, like we're fucked basically. Like, how do we physically, unless we get, all of us get lifted in the chariot, like we encircled. But now this is what the Lord does when it looks really bleak, right? Verse 27, but there came a messenger unto Saul saying, haste thee and come, for the Philistines have invaded the land. So the king has left the land wide open because he's pursuing David. So the Lord said, all right, cool. You think you got David? All right, I'm sending a message. The Philistines are taking over Israel. You're going to have to bring your ass back. Take your men and bring your ass back to fight the Philistines. And you can't say no, because if you say no, you lose your crown. Definitely lose your crown. You know what I'm saying? Right then and there. So he ain't had no choice. So verse 28, wherefore Saul returned from pursuing after David and went against the Philistines. Therefore, they called that place Salah Hamalekov. All right. And David went up from thence and dwelt in the strongholds at Engedi. So let's look up that word right quick. Man, the Lord making moves, man. Like I said, these stories, we've read these over and over and over. But every time you read it, you come back and read it, it's always with a deeper understanding. And, with more details being revealed in the spirit. That's why you never really get tired of reading. Never get tired of reading. So let's look up this word. Oh, no, man, what am I doing? So like it. All right, so Strong's. It says rock of divisions. All right, so like says the cliff of escapes. Wow, the cliff of division. All right, a rock or cliff in the wilderness of my own southeast, the scene of an escape of David from Saul. So that was a place where David, basically things were bleak. So when things are really bleak and you feel like you're surrounded by the enemy and it feels like, yep, this is it. I guess the Lord, but you can't have that mindset where I guess the Lord. Nah, it's just when it gets really bleak, last minute, that's what the Most High is, man. The Heavenly Father is he enjoys the dramatic. So you have to continue to wait even at the last minute. All right, they put you in the concentration camps. Your head about to be in the guillotine. Now, you might get your head chopped off, but believe till the very end, because you never fucking know. You never know. The Lord has a flair for the dramatic. So that was, I want to bring that forth. I'm going to conclude with a few more precepts. This is Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 3, verse 9. They that put their trust in him shall understand the truth, and such as be faithful in love shall abide with him. For grace and mercy is to his saints, and he has care for his elect. So he has care for his elect, so he made sure his elect David was taken care of. Luke 21:36. Watch ye therefore and pray always. You seen David was constantly going back to the Lord. Lean on Yahweh by Shemel Shah. Always do that, right? Watch ye therefore and pray always, that ye may be accounted worthy to escape all these things that shall come to pass, and to stand before the Son of Man, Hamashiach Yahushua. So hopefully you were edified as well as I was, for the spirit and power of Yahweh by Shemel Shah. Call Halam like Yahweh by Hashem, Yahushua by Hashem, Kakudash, double honors to our elders and apostles, great millstone and shadow one to the elect.